G'day everyone. I'm just going to put together a quick Everest preview, just get through the key runners, lead up races, have a quick look at them, present a few different, outcomes that I think are the most possible, and try and just piece together, where every horse fits in, considering a lot of them are coming from different form lines. So I'll try and get through it as quick as I can and present what I think is the most likely thing to happen. So get my fat head off here. And the main starting point is probably the map. Forgetting these four inside horses here because they're emergencies. Joyful Fortune most likely to kick up from the inside draw and does sort of hold that inside position. The track we're probably going to get somewhere between a 6 and an 8. I think the weather's pretty good. It looks like there's not too much rain around this morning, which is good. That was the probably scariest time for the track curators. That 20 sort of k an hour wind predicted for most of the day. So hopefully a bit of drying weather. I think it's supposed to get to like 24, which would be nice too. Tomorrow looks like no chance of rain, touch wood. So hopefully continues to dry. Back to the rail true is interesting because you would assume these horses are going to get out into that 8 metre part, which is what was used last week, and obviously got torn up quite a bit. So it'll be very interesting to see the pattern obviously leading into this, but for the purpose of this video, I'll try and hope it's as neutral as possible and you can make ground through that middle section, because it does look like a horse like Joyful Fortune will hold the inside. Horses like Jacquino, Private Eye, I think Private Eye will be well in front of Jacquino, Giga Kick, Overpass trying to hold position just behind the speed. Then you've got horses like Shades of Rose, Eduardo coming across, and obviously Nature Strip drawing the widest gets the biggest look at him. Big chance he'll be caught wide, no cover, I would imagine. I would expect that Shades of Rose will try and sort of cross the horses inside it or with Overpass. And I would expect that a horse like Eduardo is the one that pushes forward and tries to sit outside Joyful Fortune. And then either Nature Strips on the back of a horse like maybe Shades of Rose if it gets caught wide, or it's just out there by itself. Not ideal. And I think he's fallible. I think there's an air about him that he's unbeatable, and he's never been really unbeatable his whole career. He obviously looked very good first up, but if you sort of delve into it a bit more, he had that residual fitness off the UK run, and he looked unbelievable there. I'm not saying that he certainly can't win this race, but he may be a little bit vulnerable depending how the track's playing and just depending how the race unfolds. Joyful Fortune, I think, only knows one way, so they're going to go pretty quick, which again doesn't really annoy Nature Strip. He's a horse that absorbs pressure and likes a fast tempo. It's just a matter of sort of where he sits in the run here and who can camp off him and maybe take advantage of his vulnerability late if that exists. So we'll have a quick look at the lead-up run of Nature Strip. So I think everything kind of went to plan for him this day. I'm trying to take the sound off. So Eduardo was a bit weird. I fell into him this day and thought that he would sort of come on from his first up run, which I thought was pretty good. And I thought he'd clean up from that run, as in he looked pretty green and had a few signs that he had improvement to come, and it looks like they backed off him coming into this race. I still think I find it very difficult to picture Eduardo turning the tables off these runs, because there's no doubt that Nature Strip will have upside off this, you would imagine, and they always get it pretty right with this horse. So he's pretty keen in the run here. He's behind the leader at Nature Strip. Eduardo's had the soft lead. I think that Overpass was well and truly wound up for this run, and just to get him in the race, he was the one horse who had to prove himself to get into the race, and he is probably the one that may be on the downward spiral off this. So I'm saying these two horses will find it very difficult to turn the table on Nature Strip off this run. We've already seen these other couple of horses, which I want to go back and have a look at. So the horse, to me, here who had the hardest run clearly and is keen in the run is Lost and Running. It's at wide, no cover outside Marzu. So 4 wide, no cover for the majority of the race, and just kept coming to the line. Really love that. Really love to see that in sprinters. He's obviously come out and run well again since one. And again there, he made a wide run. We'll have a look at that run soon. So a horse like Marzu went okay here to come out again and run okay. This horse back in the field here, Masked Crusader, is a horse that always camps off the speed and runs on a bit. It's come out and run okay since too, but we'll cross that bridge in a minute. I think this is the horse that can turn the tables off this run. Just love that he absorbs pressure, sat wide, kept coming. Warning signs from a horse like Anathol, running on quite well in the race too. But we'll get to that as well. So my line of thinking is if you're using this as the premier form line, then Nature Strip obviously can win, and so can Lost and Running. And we've already seen the lead up of Eduardo, so we'll have a quick look at this race from the other lead up where Lost and Running's come out. So it's drawn a little bit inside here, which is awkward. He's taken the cold sit and gone back a bit. Marzu again we get to see here. Overpass we get to see again here. And I think Masked Crusader sort of ducks back towards the inside late. So again, he's a little bit keen. So I still see that he's got improvement to come, Lost and Running. And I think this fast run race will really bring him on. I think it'll really help him. And I really can see him getting the back of Nature Strip potentially in the race, which makes him very, very scary. So he's the first one to pull out here and make his run. Horses again like Masked Crusader back in the field, not doing a lot of work. So he's the one carting up first, doing all the work himself. Marzu sort of has the inside run, a bit more cover. Absolutely perfect run through. And I just feel like this guy, like he puts him away, and he definitely tires late. He definitely tires late, but he's always sort of in control of the race. Masked Crusader back to the inside, no doubt, running on strongly. It's just, again, very difficult to see for me. I know it's only a narrow margin, but this horse had a better run in transit, and I think this horse still has more upside than this horse. So this is Marzu, this is Masked Crusader back towards the inside. I know this is Kementari, and this is Brutality flashing home. So again, I'm going to make an argument that some of this form may be average, but what I'm trying to say is I think this horse is the one out of all of this that can challenge and beat Nature Strip. He's got 1,300 metre form, which I love. So he's got form beyond the 1,200 metres. He should be strong. And I love that he's drawn sort of in that middle gate and he can find a position. So he's drawn in here where I would imagine that he's going to be in a wide with cover position, which is where I want to find a horse here potentially. And then you've got horses back in the field like Private Eye and Masked Crusader, who are the ones who are going to be sort of stalking and searching for gaps late. But I do really think that this is the horse that's going to camp on the back of Nature Strip and present the most danger and has the profile to be strong late. Jacquinot is probably the other horse that's going to be sort of searching for runs back and on the inside. So that's kind of that form line, all those horses. So that's covering Nature Strip, Eduardo, Lost and Running, Masked Crusader, Marzu, Overpass. They're all coming through that same form line. And I just think that, Nature Strip can obviously win, but if he's vulnerable, love taking on short price favourites and can't really justify his quote. But Lost and Running certainly looks the horse that's most likely to have options to trail up and find the right spot. Bowman, the absolute king at doing it. And the horse looks very well set up, has the right profile to be strong, as we said. Had issues at previous preparations where he's looked like the likely next dominant force in sprinting, and I think this is his chance to sort of show that he's the next one that's going to be the hardest to beat in these sorts of races. So then we go to down the page. We'll just go to Private Eye. So Private Eye, very interesting horse. Hard to read his form here, but what I sort of go back and say is that I think, during his first preparation, he went 1,000 to 1,100 to 1,350. He won 4 in a row. Came back and they tried to stretch him to a mile. He came back and won a Group 2 at Eagle Farm over the mile. So he successfully won that race, had good tempo to suit and won. Then next preparation came back and won was it a Doncaster or an Epsom over the mile. So where I'm going with this is I I'm still not convinced he's a miler. I think he's winning these races on just pure class. They've trained him to be a miler, and he's overcome, like he's back here, third last. Not easy to win from back here if you're not just a strong animal. So he's obviously had, things to suit somewhat in a few of these races, like fast tempo here again. Got over the top of them late in handicap conditions. So class horse. Stretched to 2,000 metres, ran okay, did his best. Still ran like second on fast last 600 behind Zaki in a Group 1 weight for age race. So again, just showing his quality, showing how hard he tries. Stretched out to a mile last prep and heavy tracks. This was his first up run. Just a pretty ordinary ride, I thought. They absolutely walked here. He's jumped, you can see look how he jumps. He's a good gate horse. And he's just forcibly dragged back out of the race. Ends up second last. They're absolutely walking. I don't think his preferred track is a heavy track. So he's won races on heavy tracks. So I just think he's a quality horse that's got away with it. But here he comes down the outside. So it was difficult to make ground wide here. They went slow. And he's the one that the only one that sustains a run down the middle and gets away from the horses that were back with him and just can't really in the front two, had it soft time in the right part of the track. So strong through the line there. And then next two runs, again, ran into really slow tempos, wet tracks, out to the mile. I just completely forgetting about that preparation. What's interesting is they did put the blinkers on at the last run there. They kept them on for Brisbane. And again, just had a tough run here. You can see he jumps well. He just jumps well every time. This is what I kind of liked about him last run. I just didn't think he'd be tailed off. He's not a slow horse early. He's got some toe, and here he is out 4, 5, 6 wide. And again, this is a bit like Lost and Running, what I love to see from sprinters. And this is sort of the alligator blood form lines we're having a look at here. He's out wide here. And he just keeps coming. Like you can see he's under pressure, and his fitness is given out. He's first up, he's 1,300, he's wide the trip. And he just keeps coming. There's no stopping him. There's no give up in him. Everyone saw the Doncaster. If he didn't, he was a tragedy beaten in the Doncaster after that. Behind Alligator Blood, that form's just looked stronger and stronger. It was a little bit smelly, and sometimes that Brisbane form you've got to be a bit worried about. But I think that form and that Stradbroke form has just looked great. This was his resume. He can run over 1,200 metres with the blinkers on once again, 60.5 kilos here. He's sort of a bit unlucky to get dragged back a little bit. But once he gets out, he's very dominant. So, again, he's just what I love about him. He just continues to build. He's not like a sit sprint, 200-metre sprint horse. If he gets clear running, he winds up and he just keeps coming. So he's drawn a little bit low, which is not ideal. But as I sort of said, that shape of the race, it does look like there's going to be 3 and 4 wide lines here most likely. And I'd imagine they'd be sort of fanning and coming quite wide and bunched to a certain degree on the bend. I'm hoping they're not spread right out, because if this horse is sort of towing into it, can get to a lane where it can build momentum, I think he's a very dangerous horse here. I love that I know he's got this mile form. He's won twice over a mile, but I really do think sort of 1,400 metres is probably his peak distance, which is great for this race. And I just think he's going to be super strong. Great sense of timing about him. Think that he's not been knocked about too much. Love that he's second up at this distance. I don't think there's any problem there. The drier the track, the better, but I'm not really super concerned if he's on soft ground. I think he still runs okay, and I just think the way this race will be run, a little bit more testing, he can use his strength, whereas some of them just won't have it here. We'll go down to Ingratiating. He was okay here. Both his runs back are pretty good, but hard to see him turning the table. So he's got to the outside here. He makes a run. Clearly sort of held up, knocked over a bit, and comes and beats him, runs away from him, bunch margins behind. I just think, he'd be hard to beat in a lower tier race. I just think he's going to have to need every favour and a bit of luck to overcome these horses, especially at 1,200. He's never won at 1,200. and that's an issue for him. That's ingratiating. Sort of covered those other horses, Marzu. They're place chances, I think, but I just think they need to have every bit of luck as well to turn the tables on other horses. Joyful Fortune, it would be the upset of the millennium. Shades of Rose the same. 35 days between runs. Had a few days in the paddock. It's come back here. I don't think it even trialled. They were talking about trialling. Oh, I did trial. Pardon me. Behind Joyful Fortune, and she's okay. She's a good horse, but this is just a different world to anything she's ever encountered. Like Formula and Electric Girl, Palacepan, Mautai, Tristate. That's just a different world to this. And if she measures up, it'll be one of the better training performances I've ever seen. No doubt about that. Jacquinot is certainly a horse that creates interest and super strong. Love the setup for him. 12, 14, back to 12. Handles all going, it looks like. Definitely would prefer a firmer track by the looks of him, and did make ground in a position that was hard to make ground last start. So that's a great thing. His strength through the lines, awesome. He reminds you a little bit of Private Eye, to be honest. He's just he's not a flashy, sharp sprinter, but as he builds through the line here, that's what you love to see. So he's a dangerous horse for sure. Huge test for him. He's entitled to be odds. I don't think he's entitled to be shorter than Private Eye. Could you make him a winner? He's probably a horse that you don't want to lose on, but he will need a lot of favours. So I expect him to get out a little bit from the $10. And if you're outlaying $100 in the race, for argument's sake, $10 on him to get your money back is probably not the scariest option if you're backing a couple of other runners in the race to win as well, which is probably what I would be suggesting. Giga Kick's a horse that I think really needs to come up. I do think its form's okay. Hasn't been to 1200. Hasn't been super dominant in any of its races, but raced, sort of gone through the grades, maiden, open, Group 3, Group 2. So it's on the way up, but this is a huge, huge step up for him, and he's probably one I'm happy to take on as well. So for me, it's a race where Nature Strip can certainly win. But I'm siding with, I think, Private Eye's the horse I'm keenest to make a strong winner, and I'm definitely making Lost and Running a winner as well. And take it or leave it, save on Jacquinot. The other horse that I sort of missed there, I think, was Masked Crusader. It's got the winkers on, so it's overpass here. But I just think he's well exposed, Masked Crusader. He's going to find a similar position to horses like Lost and Running, and I'm hoping, I wish Private Eye had his gait, but I'm hoping that Private Eye is sort of tracking into a similar spot than him, and I'm backing Private Eye to be stronger than Masked Crusader late, even though he does have that dynamic finish on him. So for me, it's I'm making Private Eye my best result and making Lost and Running a winner, and optional to save on Jacquinot. I probably won't myself. I just think being down on that inside section is going to be difficult for him to round them up if he gets the miracle run through too good. But I definitely couldn't knock anyone for saving on Jacquinot. But I really do think the best two options, value-wise, are Private Eye around the $15 mark, and I think Lost and Running is about $7.50, something like that. I think it should be closer to Nature Strip, as should Private Eye, and I'm certainly not saying Nature Strip can't win, justified favourite, but $2.15 I think is nice and short in a race like this, just where it could be vulnerable, and I do see a few horses that are quite strong tracking up behind him here and causing him a few problems. Good luck if you're playing in the race. It is a great race this year for all the hoo-ha about it. It's an interesting race, and that's what everyone wants to bet on, and this race certainly creates interest, and this is a decent sort of looking betting race. Dominant favourite, probably justified, but good angles around it. So anyone who's playing, good luck, and all the best on Everest Day. It's never easy. The whole meeting looks pretty tough, but hopefully you have some luck. Thanks, guys.